Hi, it's Dr. Carey from Lifetime Health and Wellness. Thanks for joining us for our It Takes a Village series.
I'm Dr. Michelle.
And we have Bonnie with us today, and she's going to talk about what she does and why she does it.
Yeah, take it away.
Hey, I'm Bonnie Wayne. I've been doing diastasis and ab repair for 14 years. I'm one of the 14 or so licensees in the country for Tupler technique and located here in the Chicago area. Work with Dr. Carey, Dr. Michelle, another doctor over in Yorkville, and independently contracted as well. So that's me in a nutshell. Love doing diastasis work, helping people close diastasis. I also help them to reverse hernias, umbilical hernias, sometimes apogastral hernias as well. Work on pelvic floor and also fixing the posture that comes from pregnancy. So that's me in a nutshell of what I like to do. I work with prenatal clients. If they're pregnant, we can help you from keeping that gap from forming. If you have had a baby, great. It doesn't matter whether it's been 3 days, 30 years, we can still help you close it. There's no statute of limitations. Men can even have it. So, you know, it's across the gamut there, but the best thing you can do is if you've had a baby, work on closing it either in between pregnancies or during pregnancy, so you have an easier pregnancy, recovery, delivery, labor, and then afterwards, then it's much less catch of work to really close that and to fix it.
Can you, Bonnie, kind of describe a little bit about more what diastasis is and how it can occur and that sort of thing for people that are not quite sure what that is?
I would love to. Okay.
Oh, we got a demonstration.
I love it.
Okay, so this is representing the outermost abdominal muscle, the recti muscle, the six-pack muscle. When you're pregnant, the forward forceful motion of the uterus and the pressure splits the recti, and that's up to 98% of postpartum women. Really, statistically, they say 30 to 60%. In my experience, it's much higher for postpartum women. A diastasis can look like this. It can look like a split all the way down where it's the same amount of split. It can be wider at the bottom. That one is the most common one I see, about 70 to 80% of people. This one I see in about 2% of people, not very often. Once in a while, I'll see this one. This one is if you've had hernia surgery, laparoscopic surgery, anything like that, where they've closed and stitched that navel area, and the upper and the lower are still like, okay, we're still open. So that is what a diastasis will look like. So you'll notice if that's split, there's no bones right here, and there's no longer any muscle. So the only thing in this area right here where the gap is a thin piece of connective tissue over the organs like saran wrap. If you get a little hole in that, then the organs can poke through. You can get a hernia. So what we do is we focus on utilizing the transverse abdominis, which would be the innermost abdominal muscle, represented here by the blue. And so this muscle is a giant muscle. It's not a giant muscle, but it is like a big belt, better said, and it inserts into the connective tissue of the spine. So everything we do, you'll feel in a good way in your back, but these two muscles work together. Read here the transverse here. So, and you know what this one does, the transverse does, the recti will always do. So if you're coughing incorrectly or sneezing, and then the recti goes forward, then the transverse goes forward, then the recti will follow. So everything we do, you'll want to bring the transverse back so the recti will follow that. And so that will really help close everything. So you have to watch what you choose to do for your exercises. You need to watch what you do for any kind of movements throughout your day, how you're picking up your baby, how you're picking up the car seat, how you're picking up the grocery bags when you're walking inside the house. Those will all affect what happens to your transverse, what happens to your recti. If you notice you're doing exercises in a class and you find your belly is getting larger and it's looking worse, and that's a good indicator that you have split the recti muscles. So even if you had a baby and you're split to a degree, you might not notice it as much. But if you're continuously doing crunches, which cause a forward forceful movement of the abdominals, splits the recti even more, then you'll notice that this will get wider and wider. When you go up from a laying down position, you'll see a mound. That will be a good indicator that those organs are poking through. There's no connective tissue, nothing, no natural corset, so to speak, keeping you in. It's the intestines are all hanging out. You get organ protrusion. You walk around, and then it looks like you're pregnant because there's nothing holding you in. So you really want that natural corset to come in and make sure that it's not going to look like you're pregnant. We want to get away from that. We want to get away from all the organ protrusion and all those kinds of things.
That's awesome. I'm actually glad that you mentioned crunches. You know, we created a mnemonic for people, you know, like things to avoid, but I think just being on the lookout, like, you know, everyone wants to bounce back after pregnancy, but as you mentioned, men can get it. Women who've never had children can get it, you know, depending on the type of workouts. And I'm with you when it comes to the majority of postpartum women having it. We do those checks that you taught us, you know, so we were taught how to check them, and that's part of our postpartum exam. And we're just hoping that we just create more awareness that if people are having their babies in a hospital, when they have that 6 or 8 week postpartum checkup, that these providers are skilled in knowing how to check this stuff too.
Yeah. And then you offer things, I mean, you do one-on-ones, you do different group classes, like you have a lot of different ways to connect to different people out in the community, correct?
Absolutely. So thank you for that. Yeah, you can reach me at Dr. Michelle, Dr. Carey's office. I do workshops 2 or 3 times a year there. I also work out of Dr. Cornish's office in Yorkville, doing workshops 2 to 3 times a year over there. If someone doesn't want a workshop setting, that's usually about 8 people, then what we can do is a one-on-one. It's more of a private session. Those can be done, those are usually done in Yorkville. There are exceptions to that, but normally in Yorkville, and those are an hour long. You can also reach me, let's say you're a real busy person and you just want to get it done, but you just have limited time. You can reach me via Skype. So for those of you that have longer drives or whatever, it's a 3-part program, either privately, 3-part program Skype-wise, or 3-part program for the workshop. So it's always basically in 3 parts. The only exception is if you're pregnant, and then I do recommend seeing me once a month after the initial time seeing people. Once a month until delivery. We can go over perfect pushing, we can go over labor, we can go over delivery, and some last minute things just to make sure that there is an art to pushing, and so the Tupper technique is immediately and intimately involved with perfect pushing. If you have a hernia during pregnancy, those can also be reversed. I'm the world's first documented person to reverse a hernia during pregnancy, so it is possible naturally, no side effects, no surgeries involved. It's just a matter of bringing those recti together by bringing that transverse back beautifully, naturally, and so good for the baby. People ask me all the time, what is this going to hurt the baby? These exercises that you do, they're very intrinsic. They're like Kegels for the belly. The baby just feels a slight little, you know, against the placenta, the bag of waters, the uterus, all that protection just feels like a little to them. And then sometimes they'll kick you when you're doing the exercises. But they say that the Tupper babies have the strongest legs because they're like, what's going on? You know,
Yeah.
but it keeps the mom so fit for the marathon of labor. And then afterwards, the recovery is so much better. I have 6 children of my own, done the Tupper technique for number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6. My recovery after number 2, when I was just becoming informed with the whole world of Diastasis recti and Tupper technique, that one took me 3 months to bring the recti together and get back to the original waist size. After number 6, it was just 3 weeks. So just a much quicker, because utilize those skills during the pregnancy to make the recovery, postpartum recovery, the labor, delivery, everything so much smoother. If there's pelvic floor weakness, we address that as well. The transverse is so connected to that weak pelvic floor. So anything from prolapse, anything from incontinence, when you lap, pee, sneeze, cough. I just had an RN A couple weeks ago, she was a Skype client from Georgia, and she had 4 kids. The last child was 9 years old. So it'd been a while since she had babies. She was able to, for the first time, go somewhere without wanting to pee on her shoes. So just by her technique, working everything. We see all the time. We also work with belly button anomalies. So if you have a strange belly button and you're like, I don't really know what's going on there, we can usually address that really beautifully with the Tupler technique, just by bringing those recti together, healing that connective tissue.
That is awesome. I think just normalizing this and just letting people know how common this is, but then they feel like maybe their bodies fall apart, you know, after they have babies, and they just feel like they're just not the same and not as strong. So we use the analogy of a chair, you know, the 4 legs of a chair, and you mentioned the transverse abdominis, like it not only connects to your pelvic floor, but it does connect to your spine.
Yes.
You know? And so part of your core is, it's your abs, it's your back muscles, it's your quads, it's your hamstrings into the glutes. So we have found, I know that we do notice a diastasis and they go through closing it up, that they hold their adjustments better. They're just stronger. They can do everything they want to do, and often they're just so much better after the fact. So it's the combining of forces, you know, and hence it takes a village. That's why we're doing this, because we've partnered with you over the years, and I sought you out. We met years ago, and thankfully my diastasis wasn't big, but I wanted to be on top of it because I wanted to be able to help others that were going through the same process. And
exactly, like you said, you don't have to be pregnant in order for this to happen. Like I had it happen, and it was from working out. So it doesn't necessarily like, oh, like I haven't had a kid, I don't have to worry about it. Well, you know, you can still get it.
You can still get it. Yeah. We had a man at Dr. Michelle's office at a workshop, and he was an older man in his 60s, and 8-finger width diastasis on the top. Got it closed in about 3 weeks, and you just never know. We always say check your belly before you wreck your belly. Check it for diastasis wreck. See if there's before you wreck it. And it really is worth that it's a $15 investment in 5 minutes to get a belly check. At Dr. Michelle's office, it's probably just part of the shebang there anyway. If you see me for a separate belly check, it's $15, but at least then you'll know what does your recti split look like? Is it wider at the bottom? And also watch just a little tidbit for those at home. The reason I have found that the split has started looking like this, I believe, it used to be this particular split was about 30% of people for the first 9 years that I did this, and I'm shooting on 14 years now. So I find now it's about 70 to 80%, and the reason I believe is that not only the normal things like this gets bigger during pregnancy and then nursing and that kind of compromises that lower, but the phones, it's the phone posture, so that forward head, and that really impacts that lower diastasis. So this is what I see almost all the time. So just to those at home on your electronics, I know this is like the posture of our day, right? But watch that, try and do it on a flat surface so you're not like doing the forward head, and that will really actually help your belly as well. Keep your postural elements. What I see also is this kind of postural element. We work on that. We work on getting these postural muscles back. So those support a healed belly. You can never support a healed belly by standing or having this kind of posture. So we really kind of work to undo that as well. So just watch yourself. If you're on your phone, just make sure you're not doing that, but just be cognizant. One of those things in our day that, with technology.
Yeah, exactly. Same conversation. That forward head posture, we know that every millimeter in front of your shoulders that the ears are, is an extra pound of pressure per square inch on your lower back. So everything, as you said, interconnected. And you gave a lot of really great nuggets. So I hope you moms out there and guys, you're not immune from any of this. It's proper body mechanics is important, but also life has its different cycles, and it's good to stay ahead of it and check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah.
Yes. Thanks, Bonnie.
you for meeting up with us today.
See you later.